Comps or comparable home sales are what appraisers use to value property. And realtors and real estate brokers use comps to give people an opinion of value or a comparative market analysis. I was lucky enough early in my career. My wife, Danielle, she is a real estate appraiser. And for the first 10 years of my career, she did all my market analysis. So imagine that, a real estate broker that hasn't done a market analysis in 10 years. But when my son was born, she stopped appraising. So let's see, my son was born, I was 32. I'd been in real estate, not quite 10 years, but pretty close. So I was 32. And one of the scariest things about my wife having a baby is that she wasn't going to work anymore. And that was terrifying because up to that point, she had done all my market analysis. But luckily, she was able to train me pretty quickly. I already knew how to locate a comparable sale. Every house is going to have a certain parameter that you use. But for the sake of this conversation, a comparable home is going to be within 1 mile of the subject property. Okay, the subject property is going to be the property that you're analyzing to determine what the value might be. And you want to find like-kind property. Generally, on an average home, you want to be between 150 to 250 square feet range. If you're analyzing a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, chances are you want to have comparable home sales that are a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage within a certain square footage range. And there's a couple of key indicators that I look at whenever I do a market analysis. You're looking at square footage, obviously. That's an easy one. You're looking at room count, garage count, all that stuff. Generally, on most typical homes in any given area, you can find plenty of comps that fit that. Some of the things that I find to be the most impactful on value are going to be any seller paid concessions. So you could have a sale for $350,000, but the seller paid $10,000 of the buyer's closing costs. That's going to reduce the value to $340,000. And so you want to make sure that you are taking into account seller concessions. So someone might see on Zillow or something like that, hey, my neighbor's house sold for $350,000. But what that doesn't show is that out of that $350,000, the seller paid concessions of $10,000, bringing the value down to $340,000. And so if you have an identical house and you think you can get $350,000 and it's sitting on the market, you did your client a disservice by not letting them know, hey, even though that house sold for $350,000, it really sold for $340,000 because they gave some concessions. So concessions are a really big factor that a lot of real estate brokers overlook. The general public does not have access to those records. That's only going to be found in your local MLS on the broker side. Other key indicators are going to be whether or not it has an updated roof, whether it has refrigerated air versus swamp cooler. Not every part of the country has swamp coolers, but in Albuquerque, we have swamp coolers, which are basically water fans that sit up on top of your roof, and you only get about a 20-degree spread, right? So the difference between a swamp cooler and an HVAC system or a refrigerated air system, which most people are more accustomed to, is between $4,000 and $8,000 on the adjustment side. I'm also looking for number of fireplaces. I'm also looking for whether the backyard is landscaped or not. I'm looking for whether it has a covered patio. I'm looking for, does it have granite or Formica countertops? Does it have overall updates? I'm looking for views. So if you go to the back patio and you look out and you see beautiful mountains, usually that's some sort of an adjustment of $5,000 to $15,000 versus one that does not have those. So those are all key indicators that I look at. I can run a CMA in my head on most property. I've sold, thousands of homes and I've done thousands of CMAs. When I first started out, my wife and I in 2009, we were really struggling. The real estate market was really bad at the time. And so I would do what's called a BPO or broker price opinion for different banks. And one year, my wife and I together, you would get about $30 to $50 per unit. And we made $15,000 doing BPO. So I don't know what the math is on that, but I mean, we did hundreds of BPOs. And that was such a great teaching tool because now, even though values have changed dramatically, I've been able to pace values and know what something is worth almost without looking at it. Obviously, if I'm working with a client and they have a home, I'm going to run a traditional CMA. But generally speaking, I know what that house is worth before I even get started. And then I just look for data to support that value. So having a realtor that knows the market and knows how to complete a comparative market analysis quickly and accurately is really an important key that you need to look at. So that should be one of your top 5 questions: is how much experience do they have and how accurate are they on their evaluations? Hey everyone, Michael here with Absolute Real Estate. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor, like and subscribe below. And if you want more information on real estate and real estate investing, check out the links below, and I'll see you on the next video.